Stuff that is always my son. Those are contagious, you know. If somebody rubs their eye, then I'll take their eye. Somebody eyes, then I'll take their eye.
I was cleaning tomatoes until 7 o'clock. So from like 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock last night. And I still have probably close to 50 pounds.
Oh my God. So what?
I did, and I still have a bunch of the baby, but then I decided to buy a bushel of both oranges and regular onions. I'm thinking about doing hundreds of tomatoes to feed the mom too.
Well, that's a lot. That is a lot.
It is. It's relaxing, but boy, that really got tired.
That's a lot of work. You're in your feet a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Once you found out a way to have a high school and do some things, that'd be a little tricky.
I've got my cooking, so I used to hand mill it, so now I've got it in the classes. That helps, but
Still is a lot.
right. Not seeing him is a good thing.
They call it the site, and they come up with so yeah, they know who's able to do it. There's enough one there's out there. I pulled it off. I forgot the guy who was the charter guy. We pulled it all off with that. That's a good one. So I like
Hi.
Good morning. How are you? Good.
Recording in progress.
Good morning and welcome to Osceola County Committee of the Whole. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to see us put the removal of trees from Rose Lake Park for discussion on the agenda.
Any other additions or deletions? We need to add a request for waiver on the cost for the FOIA for Ashton Bancroft for discussion. Under new business. Any other additions or deletions?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Brief public comment. What are your board comments? Consider approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Old business, Health Safety and Grounds Committee update.
We had after last board meeting, we did review, 2 bids that we received for the health and the building parks for seal coating. After reviewing the bid, which, there were 2, one for just under 9,000 and one for just under 21,000. After reviewing both bids, the committee recommended that we accept the one from coating services for $20,755 for the repair. Reason that we went with a higher bid is because it provided more services. They were going to do more work on the parking lot, actually repair. The other bid was kind of a la carte. They found stuff, they would fix it as a bid and then just add to it. So this one from being seemed to cover everything that was needed. So that would be my recommendation.
I'll make that, is that a motion?
Yeah, this would be a
I'll
motion.
second the motion.
Discussion?
I have a question. So you ended up with 2 bids,
Just 2.
and they both weren't apples to apples?
No.
That's what I'm hearing.
No. The cheaper bid was more of an a la carte. They had a base price, and if they found anything, then they would start charging time and materials to repair.
And they went and bid it the other way.
This is the way they came in. This is what we did. We gave everybody the opportunity to do the same. Once reviewed, the committee reviewed both of them. This is what we decided was best for the longevity of the parking lot.
So essentially, we ended up with 1 bid.
One that was going to cover everything that needed to be done.
Is there any reason that seeing that we can't bid apples to apples, that we don't put out a job description so they know what they're bidding?
I understand that. That's exactly right. This is the one, the more expensive one was actually going to take the asphalt out, repair the asphalt in the areas that were damaged. The other one was just going to seal.
Seal cracks and put a coating on it.
Yeah, and not also repair underneath.
But I'm just asking questions. It doesn't make any sense to put an RSP out there for bids if people don't know what they're bidding.
True.
Did the RFP include within the RFP itself the fact that there would have to be asphalt removed and?
It was, I do believe Tim was just a repair, wasn't it?
Oh,
Is that rather helping us right there?
Actually, we did put out an RFP. Tim come to me and said that he felt it needed to be done, so I put out calls to several companies. I think there was 7 altogether. Most of them, we were too far away, they weren't interested, because to get repair seal done, we don't have any local companies. These were the only 2 local companies that actually do repair seals. A lot of companies will come in and spray it, but that's not repairing it. When I met with the guys up there, walked the parking lot with them, told them what we were looking, the first one that was Star that bid the 9,000, he said that they would figure out what it would cost to repair the spiderweb cracks as they went, but for 1 seal coat, painting the parking lot, fixing the cracks was 9,000 roughly. The other company come in, he went and measured all the spiderweb spots. He put that right in his initial quote. So that's why his 20,000, that includes 4 spiderweb fixes of over 20 by 20, fixing all the cracks, and 2 seal coats, and painting the parking lot back to its original lines. So there was a lot more in the second bid. The first guy had the same option, because I told him, fix the parking lot, that's what we're looking for. So,
do you feel comfortable with, it's twice the cost?
I do, and I even feel more comfortable now because the company that we went with is the same company that just did Commission on Aging over in Hersey. And I went over and looked at that parking lot and they phenomenal job. I mean, it almost looks like a whole new parking lot.
So past jobs similar to this, it's within the ballpark?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
When did they say they could do it? I'm sorry, I didn't think of that until just now.
Tim, what was our,
The start date on the
Yeah.
parking lot? After the health, safety and grounds met, and you listed B&E as the recommendation, Brad reached out to them and told them that, they could probably go ahead and work it into their schedule as it would be approved today.
right,
Have you heard back? And
No, what we gotta do is, once it's final approved, we just have, we just gotta sign the
let's get it scheduled as soon as
contract.
possible.
And, but he said that after they sign the contract, it could be within 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I would say
Before
probably the
cold
first
weather.
part of
Before
September.
the end of September.
And it's very possible they might do it on a Saturday, which won't interfere with our parking. He said he would try to work that in as best as possible.
Okay, let's move on to the grant housing emergency repair program. Mr. Lath.
do you want me to defer it to you? Well, Mr. Hockey?
Yeah. Good one.
So this is the defederalized money, the 32,000.
Yep. So you want answers to what we can do with it, right? Is that really the?
That'd be great, yes.
Okay.
Let us know.
Linda did some research. So the program is now administered by Michigan. They switched from MEDC had it down there. So our contact sent us back an email, and really you can use it anything under 35,000 for anything that you want. There's no restrictions. They do recommend that you consider doing continuing an emergency repair program. In their manual, they said we recommend that that's the case, but that is not required. So it's really up to the discretion of the county.
So as I spoke with several of you this morning, that if you make a recommendation today, to use it towards emergency housing, you don't necessarily have to have a public hearing on that, unless you choose to.
Yeah, and under 35,000 too, you don't have to do a public.
It was 32,000 and, yeah.
32, 710, and 57 cents.
And just so you know,
32,057 cents.
Yeah.
$32,710.57.
just from a historical perspective, this money is recaptured by liens on property that the county, back in the day, every county got an allocation for homeowner repair. So whether you wanted it or not, you got it. So this money could have been from 20 years ago. Now the state doesn't do it that way anymore.
I have a question to that. We've got 32,000 change. If we use that and money comes in again, are we back under that 35,000 for the next year?
The 35,000 count started July 1st again.
But if we use it, it wouldn't roll over to where we can't use it again.
This is defederalized, so it's yours forever. You don't.
So anything that comes in next year under the 35,000 would be for 2027.
2026, 2027, yeah.
But to be
Yes.
spent the following year.
Through 26, I'm sorry.
Right.
But it
So-
can't go over 35,000,
Right, so
then the restrictions come back.
What Jim's asking, from July 1 of 2025 to June 30 of 2026, that's your calendar year. So if you collect 35,000, under 35,000 in that year, then from July of 26 to June of 27.
So each year we could be looking at debt funds.
But technically, if it's under 35, it's yours forever to do whatever you want. If you collect over 35, then you have to use it on emergencies.
Right.
And then you only have that following 1 year to spend it, and anything you don't spend gets sent back to the state. I think that's what you're kind of getting at, right, Jim?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
I know how you operate.
You know, 35,000 or 32, whatever it is, say we put it back to the emergency housing fund, it doesn't count against us for next year's maybe.
No, not at all.
You're not gonna technically put it back into the fund. You're going to make, if you choose to make recommendations to use it, it would just simply be for emergency housing repairs. It has to be removed out of the fund.
Okay, so we keep it in a different account, but we still follow the
So
same
you're gonna
rules.
earmark it, you're gonna earmark it for housing repairs.
And I
Well, I'd
think,
like to make that motion, Mr. Chairman, that we, take it, make it available under the same rules for emergency housing.
If we make it under the same rules as emergency housing, we're gonna go back to the lien system. That's why a lot of these people aren't using it. We need to make the motion to where it goes in for emergency housing repairs. Because if we go back under the same rule, we're gonna go under the lien program again.
No, it's not in the same fund.
If you use the emergency housing program,
Let me clarify. This 32,000, you can use it however you want, for whatever you want. So if you decide to use it for emergency repairs or non-emergency repairs, you can do that. If you want to have a lien or not have a lien, you can do that. There's no rules attached to it. In the past, you guys have chosen to keep it for emergency repairs. You technically don't have to put a lien on it.
no, I understand that, but if we go back in under the emergency housing rules, we're
Right.
going back to the lien
it
program.
would be nice to do, like in this children, do a forgivable lien instead of having it detached. That would, so, right now, so under this program that we're administering, this child grant, it's a 5-year forgivable lien, and that attracts people. When the permanent liens, people sometimes don't want to.
Maybe I should polish up my motion. I'd like it to be used as emergency housing fund administrated by the third party as previously done. So
I'll second that.
And just, I'm pretty certain we can use it because in this child grant review, we're looking at big projects that there's so much money involved, we can't help them because we have to bring the projects up to a certain standard. But they need wells, they need septic tanks, and we can't do it under that program. So we could really help some people without having to do the whole project, just do the emergency.
Now, talking about that, would you be able to help somebody with a project and provide the funding from the chill grant, the 10,000, and then supplement with this?
Yeah.
That way you could cover a bigger expense
Yeah.
and not eat it all up on this one or.
Yeah, and we've talked about that opportunity.
Because there's going to be overtime, I think, also.
From an accounting standpoint, I heard you say you had to move it out of the fund. Are you creating a new fund? Are you putting it in your general fund and creating some restricted dollars? Do you need that in your motion?
Probably would go in the general fund and then restrict it to emergency home repairs.
Yeah, I think they recommended that you track that money, at least have it in a line item that is related to that.
The recommendation is to put the funds in a sub-account labeled CDBG Housing Defederalized Program.
Okay, CBD housing defederalized program?
Yeah.
are you good with that, Tanya?
And that's a separate fund or within the general fund? A separate fund. So it's a fund that has to be created.
I think it could be
I
within
think
the
it
general
can be.
fund. I think it's just a sub-account.
Just listed as a line item.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. For my motion.
We probably said the first time.
All right, any other discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Right.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
I have a couple more questions for
Okay.
you, please.
Sure.
This year's chill grant monies, how much of that is still available and how long is it available for?
Well, that is a good question. It's available still, we're bidding out projects right now. I will tell you, we're not attracting a lot of contractors because everybody's busy right now, as you can imagine. So, I know we got delayed, the regulations and the paperwork got delayed. It's common, it's kind of a common, thing that they're gonna extend the time, because everybody's in the same boat, you know, they were waiting, so, yeah, how many times we've been?
So we have 8 out for bid right now. We have 7 other ones that are, we're processing that looks like they're gonna be approved. And I think there's been 12 that we have not been able to help because they don't have insurance or they're behind on their taxes, or there's been a couple that were over income.
So how much of that 250,000 do you think we're actually able or have been able to utilize so far?
Well, it's all in the bid, we don't know what the bids are gonna come back yet.
We haven't got.
Oh,
any.
because
We have-
maybe below 10,000.
Yeah.
Right, they're probably gonna be over 10, most of them. Probably gonna be.
So there's probably roughly $100,000 left, maybe?
If we're able to do all 15, maybe. It's probably
Potentially,
yes.
we'll find out soon,
Yes.
we get some bids that we can compare.
But you think they'll extend the deadline for being able to utilize
Yes.
this?
Yeah, everyone's in the same boat.
What is it if
that
they
we are.
don't?
What was your question?
What the deadline for utilizing those funds are if they don't extend it?
Okay.
What is it? It was 2 years from last
Is it next?
fall. I think it's, we still have a year. I'm not 100% certain.
The end of August or October?
Of next year, yeah, I think so.
That's
That's 26.
Okay, so then they're talking about a new one now called the neighborhood grant.
Yeah.
That'll be 295,000. Those will overlap as far as availability?
It depends on when they release the money. I mean, they certainly could.
Okay. And do you know if that's gonna be the same guidelines, you know, the insurance and the taxes and et cetera, et cetera?
It probably will, but I think it's a different funding pool, so they may have some.
It's still CDBG rules though, so it'll be pretty similar.
So just like this children, they were still writing the program and trying to get money out the door, so if you can imagine.
Plus it was transferring over from MEDC to MISHDA, and so we've been kind of waiting on that probably more than they've been waiting on us.
I know you said, but I kind of glossed over it, how many projects you've actually funded so far?
There's 8 out for bid.
8 out for bid?
So the process is, we do a housing quality standards inspection, and then we look at things that need to be done, and then we write the specs up and we give it to the homeowner to make sure that they agree that these are the specs. So there's a time frame.
It's a little bit different than the emergency repairs, because for the emergency, if their roof was leaking, we could go and just replace the roof. But this, you have to bring the whole house up to a certain standard, so.
That's the.
So they're running, they're going to the same as the weatherization plan, pretty close to the same thing.
It's a little more of a challenge.
So there would be an inspection and anything that's below code or whatever would have to be updated.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be just one specific thing.
That's right, so that's.
Yeah.
How is the information getting out there to the contractors to be able to bid?
We're directly soliciting.
You're directly soliciting?
Yeah.
Okay.
And believe it or not, everybody's busy.
Well, everybody's got spare time.
Yeah.
Come on.
I will say the emergency program's a little easier because, you know, you go to a septic contractor or a roofing contractor. It doesn't require a general contractor like this, the Jill Grant does. So then they're responsible for bringing in the subcontractors and the trees.
All right, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You didn't move that, did you? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay. Just didn't want to miss it. All right, let's move on to new business. Andy.
Good morning.
So today I have before you the FY '26 work agreement for consideration and request for authorization for the CEO and emergency manager to sign. This is our annual work agreement for our emergency management performance grant. It's kind of like an agreement between us and the feds and the state for what activities that we do over the fiscal year to ensure that our emergency management system at the local level interfaces with the states and the feds.
Should make a motion to approve as presented with the board chair to sign.
So, a little bit about this, just for an update. You'll notice on this grant agreement, there's a lot more references to the national standards. This is resulting from a White House directive earlier in March that I advised the board of, shifting responsibility for emergency management back to the state and locals over federal programs. So part of the way that they are initiating and reinforcing that responsibility is initiation of national standards. We actually fall under NFPA 1660 Code of Standards, and so our work agreement now is referring back to those. Each one of those tasks in there, it's not just a task. It's like, for example, our warning system. It's a certification system. So there is a lot more added into that this year. It's a matter of trying to ensure that our liability at the local level is not just good for our citizens, but the state and the feds. And obviously, there's been a lot of increased impact on emergency management over the last 3 years. This is National Emergency Management Month, the first inaugural one, instituted by the National Association of Emergency Managers. And there was just a study put out that since 2010, our workload and liabilities have increased by 400%. If you look at that work agreement that I presented to you today, it was somewhere around 20, 23 pages. 10 or 15 years ago, that was 2. So we are seeing the inevitable shift of more responsibilities back to us. A lot of people initially, I know the initial reaction is the fact that, well, the state should not be requiring that as much. Well, the fact remains is all of those things on there are not state implemented. They're resulting from federal or state laws resulting from disasters that have occurred. For example, we have to have a national alerting system because of disasters that have occurred in the past. We have to have hazmat plans because of hazardous materials disasters that have occurred in the past. So the responsibility is increasing, as I've not exactly been quiet about over the last 10 years. But this is where we're at. And now with the enforcement of standards, now there's something to engage by. So it is what it is. You have to have this. They also added into this that you have to have the EMPG to be a program. So, yes, I quickly sum up.
Any discussion?
I guess I might have a quick question. It's a major change this last
The standards is concerning. Specifically, I refer back, you guys had a conversation about having to have 3 deep for the owl for the meetings a little while ago. Imagine having that conversation in my office of having to guarantee alerts and warnings on 24 notice at any given point in time with my staff. That liability right now has become a focal point of the nation's emergency management system. It's an incredibly difficult responsibility 24/7 to bear for how our department is designed. So when I start seeing national standards that I physically do not have the ability to do, it's concerning to me. It's concerning to Mark. The responsibilities, we are being asked to do things that departments with 20 people, 24/7 with a much larger budget cannot. Seeing the standards in there is scary, but quite frankly, overall, my purpose as emergency manager is to make sure that the citizens in the county and the state and the feds get the best service they can. And I've long since promoted standards. We've been working towards them since I came on. But seeing it in there is a little bit nerve-wracking to me. Yes, that's a major change.
Mr. Black, you recommend that I vote to approve this? Because I'm ignorant. I don't know what we've been talking about.
What,
I think the conversation should be directed back at Mr. Watkins, the local work agreement. Is something that we have to have in place if we're going to continue to be part of the EMPG grant. Correct. So without this, we're not eligible for the grant funding that helps.
Which is how much money? That one that keeps going down.
it's hard to calculate because the EMPG itself is only 12,000, but the work agreement is the master one that provides numerous other grants for the federal. Again, this is not.
Like normally if FEMA was to come in or something.
Not only that, but Homeland Security, you may not know it, but his road patrol and other emergency services goes through our grant program as a request, as a part of that, under the provision of police power. There are numerous other grants that go on the state system to make sure. So if you don't have an emergency management program, it all falls back to you guys. So as for that $12,000, quite frankly, that $12,000 is the least of the immaterial. You still have Homeland Security grants. Again, we've had over $49 million in our history of federal disaster grants coming in. So as for the total calculation of what's tied to this is really hard to calculate.
I cut you off, I apologize.
I think as long as you can have emergency management programs, you really need to support this.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if we don't accept that agreement, it does not make us eligible for that additional funding you're talking about, correct? If we don't sign the agreement for this program, then we would not be eligible for the additional funding you're talking about that would be coming from these various.
Correct. And also too, then there would have to be a negotiation, the emergency management program would, so the purpose of this agreement is to make sure that we're in compliance with what the state needs to provide that funding for disaster and stuff. So this year, they've also added a rider that EMPG, whether you accept the funding itself or not, the work agreement is still required for you to be a Public Act 390 program. So if you don't take that work agreement, then the program dissolves from me, because law says he can, as the CEO, he can direct those powers to one person, to me. If you don't have the work agreement, then it falls back to him and you guys manage the program.
I agree with the head shaking in the one direction. Because that's a full-time and a lot of knowledge.
And we're having a drain right now. If you would look at your colleagues in neighboring counties, they're going through 2 or 3 hiring cycles because people, once they get into it, certifications alone cost $14,000 for startup. $14,000, that's the base minimum.
Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
All right, EMS. Good morning.
So first off, we ended up having our agency inspection and had no issues with that. So we are now licensed again for the next year till September 30th of next year. I ended up, due to events that happened, I wasn't able to do June and July's reports, so they're both here in front of you. Just kind of an overview. Back to call volume like normal for the south half of the county has been holding steady at 67%. The north half is 33% of total. The southwest corners, 41% in July, 42% in June. The southeast corner was 27% in July, 26% in June. The northeast corner was 16% both months, and the northwest corner was 17% both months. Response times average was 11 minutes, 23 seconds in June, and 13 minutes, 18 seconds. Reminding us from time of dispatch, or time of call to the time we're on scene. So there's also, you can have a couple minute delay there with
dispatch. We had in June 1,384 transports, and in July 1,656 transports. And they're all listed on where they went to, and our zones of where they came from. Any questions on any of the report?
How's our staffing?
So we are currently fully staffed for 3 ALS trucks. We have been staffing the Echo unit with part-time staff and overtime is how we've been staffing. And it's pretty much been staffed almost every day, 24 hours.
Part-time, it's,
So we have part-time EMTs and part-time paramedics both.
and pay rate is still high.
It all depends on when they hired in, because we did it, if they were after a certain time, then they fell into the union contract, so not all of them. Matter of fact, most of our basics are on the union pay scale. Any other questions?
On that Echo unit, how do you determine where it's going to be staffed?
So what we end up doing is, we didn't change our schedule for the transport units. So the north half still changes from between Tustin and Marion every other day. So wherever the transporting unit is not, the Echo unit is. So like today, the transport unit is Tustin, the Echo unit is staffed in Marion.
For the full day
For
or?
the full day. So that's giving us coverage in the 4 corners of the county.
So if it's not on a call, it should be sitting at that station for the day.
For the most part. Sometimes it depends on who on, we'll have them go down, they might be in the office for a little bit doing stuff, but yes, they should be in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Young, appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right, have a good day.
Thank you.
Alright, next, we will go to jail corrections nurse part-time. Mark?
And just a little background for some of you that may or may not know, in 2022, we voted to go away from corporate jail medical providers. We contracted with a local doctor, and we hired a nurse full-time in the jail. So far, it's been working out very well, but we've come to a situation where the full-time nurse is now left on Family Medical Leave Act with no anticipated return date, which leaves me no nurse in the jail to do all the medical that we need to provide for the inmates. The doctor did decide that he could come and help out a couple days a week. But I have come up with a plan to get us a part-time corrections nurse. I've created a job description. I've actually found a nurse that's willing to come and do it, that's trained in our facility, knows the procedures. She would be able to start 8 to 10 hours a week as soon as we can get her started. So with the nurse not being available, has that increased our trips to the hospital for? It hasn't yet. The nurse does a lot of work. She does all the medication approvals, all of the medical history that we have to get from the inmate. She does 14-day physicals on every inmate that's there. That's the state mandated 14-day physicals. She does all the TB testing. She does everything, and she sees, an average 4 to 6 people a day. Like now those people aren't getting seen until the doctor can get here. So, and the doctor's trying to figure. The doctor didn't do any of that. So all the medication ordering, everything is all done by the nurse. So.
This one that left, she is no longer employed with Osceola County.
She is still employed, she's out on family medical leave act, she's got some medical issues she's trying to deal with right now, so.
So in essence, we don't know if
Yeah,
or when
we
she may
don't,
come back.
we don't know if or when.
This is a part-time position he's requesting.
Yeah, it's just a part-time spot, I just need her to come in and clean up some of the stuff that's getting left behind because we don't have nurse, so.
I'll make the motion and approve the, hire of the part-time nurse.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Did this go?
Once the original nurse returns, this part-time position goes away, right?
No, I think this part-time position we should keep because the nurse has been here, been with us for 3 years now, so she's starting to accumulate vacation time and she can't, her and her husband can't get in the camper and leave for a week. So she's been very good at it. She just goes on Fridays and she takes 4-day weekends to get rid of her vacation time and stuff, but she technically hasn't had a vacation in 3 years where she could just pack up and go.
And what's the hourly rate for this part-time?
It's gonna be a grade 12,
I didn't look at it.
step 3, and 30.87 an hour, which is about half of what she makes at her full-time job.
Yeah.
But she does drive right past the jail every day to go to work, and the new girl would work. She works 4 10-hour days at her current job, so she's got every Friday off, so she can pop in on Fridays to mop up what needs mopped up and get the meds ordered. And
So for the other 4 days, the doctor's gonna pick up this
the
time?
doctor will be in for one of them. One of the scheduled days will be one of the days that she's not here. So, but we don't necessarily want to pay the doctor to come up from the Waco to be here all day because the wages he's requiring.
If the board approves this position, I think it would be good if it came back after the full-time nurse comes back to give us an update and status report for this.
Okay.
Make a decision if we're gonna continue.
Did this go to personnel salary?
It did not, because it was kind of an emergent thing.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're following the guidelines of when we're creating positions.
Yeah, it normally would have, but all of a sudden there was a huge need.
Understood. I just wanted to see if we were doing it and staying
It was
within
kind of
wages.
It was kind of an oversight from 2022, and nobody ever thought of what happens if we don't have a nurse any longer. So.
Any other discussion? Question?
So you approve in the motion the position. You need to approve the job description in the motion as well.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to.
And the grade 12 step through.
What do you prefer, Mr. Chairman?
If you just want to alter your recommendation to reflect what we need.
I do.
So it'd be to approve the position, job description, and grade scale.
Grades.
Any further discussion?
Jeremy, with the nurse and the doctor, is this taken away to where we're not using the hospital as much as we used to?
We are. We're not. We're shying away from the hospital as much as we can. Doctor does a real good job of, not sending them to the ER.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the Michigan Neighborhood Grant hearing. Ms. Doyle.
So apparently this is another new grant opportunity, pretty much follows the same guidelines as the CHILL program. The application is coming up, which is due in September. However, we need to, if you want to participate, we need to set a public hearing. I I would recommend for September 2nd to meet the deadline. And the application has to be completed and available at the public hearing as well. So, I believe it's another $295,000.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
So 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Next item, last meeting we discussed participating in opioid settlements. And now that you've chosen to do that, they are now asking for resolutions supporting that participation in the settlements. So there's two different resolutions we need to take recommendations on.
Take them one at a time, right?
Please.
Make a motion to review the first one with Purdue and Slacker. Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Alright, next one.
You
I'll
know,
make a motion that we, do the one with Elwagen, O'Neill, Alpatec, Hickman, Indivor, Mylan, Son, and Sidus.
I'm just gonna say the second person.
I'll second.
Alright. Commissioner Niemer had a motion, turn your head aside. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Alright, let's move on to removal of trees. Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate this agenda. I've heard some discussion that we had trees falling on campers at Roseway Park, and that we're in the process of possibly contracting someone to remove the big, what I would consider dangerous trees. And I just, instead of just coming up and me voting, I'd like to know what we know and what our plans are for the future. Like, one question pops in mind, how many vendors did we, or contractors did we talk to as far as tree removal? I had several questions.
Previously, I believe, and our Parks Director can correct me if I'm wrong, we had, the Parks Director had reached out to a timber company and actually had a single timber company come in and look at it for harvesting trees, which was on the agenda that got removed off the agenda. I think we need, my opinion is, I think we need to go in there and identify the dangerous trees and the ones that have deadwood in them, and go in there and thin them out. And some trees will need to be totally removed, other ones will need to be topped, and things of that nature. But you're always, irregardless, you're gonna run that risk when you're camping under the trees. I mean, you can have a perfectly healthy tree, and well, it looks to be a perfectly healthy tree. And a windstorm comes through and takes limbs. I mean, it's.
Does that affect our insurance? Are there claims against the county when say, a tree falls on our campus?
We were fortunate this time, we turned the claim in simply because we had to hire a professional company to come in and take the trees off the campers to prohibit any further damage, and once the tree branches were removed, it does not appear that, fortunately, the campers were damaged. However, there was a claim submitted to MMRMA for trouble that Aaron's having, and Aaron, feel free to jump in and talk,
Please.
is there's not very many, he's having trouble finding tree removal foresters, whatever you wanna call them, I guess, to come in to the atmosphere of a county park to take trees down, whether, you know, they're concerned about damaging infrastructure. Commissioner Custer had a couple names this morning that he gave me, places that harvest timber that we can reach out to this week to see if we can find a couple other vendors. But as of right now, out of the multiple businesses Aaron's called, there's only been one that's been willing to put a price in. So as of right now, we have one bid to consider, and obviously that's, we want to see more than that. But
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I respectfully question that, because if you contacted several and you can only get one, I mean, we only had one for the seal coat, that was apples to apples. We approved that today.
But we had two bids. We had two bids in the parking lot, and that's what the auditors
Well,
want
how
to see.
many people did you contact?
I contacted two lumber buyers, and they brought in a total of 6 or 7 cutters. At which time only one would give us an estimate because they have a climbing crew. The problem that I'm running into is Doyle, Harder, these guys, I talked to Joe yesterday again, and he said, we're a drop and drag. We drop the timber, drag it to a landing to process it. I can't find anyone, no, of the 7 cutters that were called, only 2 showed up to even consider looking at cutting it apart like that. I believe it, and I apologize, I don't have this stuff in front of me, I didn't know this was coming up at the meeting today, but I think it was K&K out of Cadillac is the only company that came in that has hand crews that would be willing to cut. And that was with me making up some concrete barriers to go over the tops of some of the electrical and water services to try to protect them in case of log, because they're going to have to bring them down in logs as they go down. Some of those trees are 100, 120 foot tall. When you talk about going through the park and identifying trees that are hazard, you know, Mr. Ladd and I looked at a lot of them this spring before the park's even open. And when you go through with a timber cutter or a timber buyer, I would recommend anyone to, because they pointed out things to me that I had no idea what's going on. The white on the beech trees indicating they're dying or dead. Several hollow trees were pointed out to me that I didn't even know, and I walked around the trees and didn't see the hollow and stuff. So that's why I started this whole process 2.5 months ago, was for the board to have some information and know what's going on in that park. I understand there's a lot of people that don't want to cut, you know, the big beautiful trees, and I get that to an extent. But when you've got 120 foot tall red pine trees that are soaked full of water, and limbs coming down from 30, 40 feet, or oak limbs coming down, I think it's something that the board of commissioners really needs to consider looking further into. There's a lot more hazard up there than you think. By going in there and logging those trees, it just makes more work for us, because there's a lot of cleanup. But, on the other hand, so far, and I don't have the exact numbers, I know we spent over $20,000 in having people come in just cutting out hazard trees this year alone. And I can drive in that park and show you 10 more oak trees that are dead, that need to come down.
How many trees did you have removed?
This year,
Yeah,
We've
with
had-
20-some thousand, how many trees did that remove?
we probably had 15.
Okay, so it's over $1,000 a tree, easily.
Well, and some of them were over that. You know, we paid $2,500, $3,000 to have 2 big oaks that were, I mean, those things were massive. So, I'm just trying to get the information to you as a board, so what you're spending on hazard trees and dead trees, as opposed to, at what point do you wanna try to get some money out of some of these trees to go towards the cleanup? Get some of the trees out there and plant what you want, plant smaller, better trees, but.
Well, I appreciate what you did, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine, but, you know, and I understand the one quote.
Well, how much is it gonna cost us for that one quote to
Well,
remove?
they're gonna pay us, and I don't have, you
They're
guys
gonna
have
pay
it in
us.
your packet, what they would pay to come in and take the timber out. And that's what I was looking for, but the problem, like I said, that I'm running into is these guys are, they call it drop and drag. They're not gonna go limb these things, they drop them down in the woods and drag them out to the landing to process them.
Do we have a landing space available for them to drag to?
The problem is, if you start dragging a 120-foot tree up them roads, you're gonna knock everything all up, you're gonna knock water services, and it's too, we have a landing spot, but there's no way you'd wanna drag them trees up them roads and out to the landing, you'd tear that whole
Would
pond
they do this in the winter?
Yes.
So it'd be better for everything, drag them on the snow and the ice.
Well, you still have to be careful with dragging them, like I said, those roads are tight and a lot of curves, and you start dragging a 120-foot tree that's, 4 foot.
Well, are they
big.
bonded?
Yeah, oh yeah, all these companies are, but.
So they have insurance in case it breaks.
Yeah.
But, if they put in a contract that they're not responsible for utilities, you're on the spot.
Yeah, it's
You're
gonna
on
be
the spot.
You said that would be in the contract, or you're just?
It was.
I'm sure that if they're gonna commit someplace like that, they're gonna have it in the contract. Why would they wanna have the liability when,
Well, they think they do the job, they have to be careful.
Well, I think what Aaron's saying though, is those other companies, they don't even wanna do it. He had one company that was willing to do it. I mean, I was in the timber business for 15 years, and so I really understand what Aaron's saying. There's a big difference between logging property and removing trees. For companies to come in there and log property, they expect to make quite a profit off that, and it's all based on time. The company that he has contacted that's willing to come in there and drop these trees limb for limb and still recover money from the logs they're removing and pay the county something for that is huge, because you just don't find companies that'll do that. Well, your big companies, they wanna come in, they wanna come out, they wanna profit, that's it. And you start dragging 100-foot trees, you're gonna damage that park like, I mean, there's no way around it. When the
we
trees-
have a better chance of getting those trees removable if we went away from timber and just went to tree removal.
But problem is, then you pay people, now you're paying people
I
to remove the
understand that,
trees.
but if it comes to the point where that's what we're gonna have to do to get the trees removed.
Well, then, yeah, if you go to a tree removal company, then you're paying like he said.
I understand that, Brad,
And
but
we've
it comes
had,
down to the point where we're not gonna make that much money off the timber, and we gotta get trees out of there, we gotta look at all options.
well, since I've been here, I mean, guys that have been here for years, Mark, Mark, you can vouch to this. All the trees that used to be up and down the street by the courthouse. I mean, there was probably 15 huge trees, and we've had them all removed, and even 20 years ago, we were paying $1,500 to $2,000 to have trees removed, because they gotta bring them down piece by piece. So like when you're talking about these companies dragging trees to a landing, they've gotta be able, they wanna just fall that tree into a spot, take the limbs off, and then drag the whole trunk. Well, where are they gonna fall them without hitting water or sewer or electric hookup? It's impossible. So they're not gonna do it. You're not gonna get a logging company to come in there and log off the park. They just won't do it because there's too much of a risk. That's why he had one company out of 7 that come in there and said, we'll do it. and it really shocked me when he told me that they actually said that they would pay the county something to recover some of the timber. Because number one, it's a risk to fall. Number two, you got a risk of metal in those trees. I mean, that part's been there for years. You get 2 spikes in one of those oak trees and they're 6, 7 inches. They hit it with a saw. You know, it's a risk. So personally, I think if you have somebody willing to come in there and drop the trees limb for limb and bring them down piece by piece and pay the county, that's huge. Even if it's a little bit.
In our last board agenda packet from K&K Forest Products, his contract states harvest all pine and hardwoods in the camping area to the operator's discretion, leave all marked trees. Timber stand improvement in hardwoods area, harvest mature trees, leaving younger ones in the park in an effective manner. Also mature pine in this area. The park assumes liability of all damage to outlets, faucet heads, landing area to be determined. Revenue and scale slips from this harvest to be paid 2 weeks after job completion. $40 a cord for the red pine, $25 a cord on white pine, $10 a cord on a pine scrag, $30 a cord on hardwood logs, $30 a cord of poplar logs, $15 on hardwood scrag, $10 a cord on all pulpwood, all hardwood pulpwood. That was in last meeting's packet.
Sounds like we may get enough money to pay for the utility damages.
You're never gonna pay for utility damages.
What?
Cover the cost.
What?
Recover the cost for the utility. I can see.
Or you selling the timber for it.
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing is, what my biggest fear is, we've had tree limbs fall on campers, I've been up there camping that campground, and in the middle of the day, there's hardly any wind. One of the tops of the red pines comes down on the ground, barely missing kids. I think this is a safety issue. I hate to have our commission sit here someday and have to face a family sitting out there wondering why we didn't take care of these trees, and it's killed some kid.
Yeah.
Or they lost a family member. That's the biggest thing, is the red pine up there are all mature, they should be harvested. There's oak trees up there that are gone, all the beech trees are infected, and there's some kind of oak wilt that's on the other side of the lake that I don't know if it's got, I think it's oak wilt. That hasn't gotten to the north side of the lake yet, and if it does, how you eliminate that is you cut the mature trees out.
If you had an actual forester come in there and walk through that park, you'd be shocked at the trees he recommends take out, because there's a lot of trees, when trees, oak, especially oak, when they get up over 120 years old, the forester will tell you need to take them out, because they're just, number one, they're choking any other trees or any other growth, and number two, they become very dangerous. Any tree that age is dangerous. So.
Aaron, were they gonna come in with a harvester, or were they gonna hand cut?
They're gonna hand cut. There's just no way, to get a harvester. They said there's some on the perimeter they can do, they'll be able to cut them and lay them because they're so big. Nobody's got equipment big enough to cut one of those and take it out to the landing. They said we can cut them and lay them, but the rest of them would have to be climbed and brought down pieces.
Mr. Mitchell, what's your desire?
Well, this has been very enlightening. I appreciate it. It almost sounds like it's semi-urgent. And I wouldn't disagree with the fact that we may not find anyone else to come in and take them out and pay us for it to a certain extent. My first thing pops in my head is there something we can do to protect the outlets and the faucets, something portable we can move around and place over the top. These guys know what they're doing. They're going to put the tree where they want it to be. I'm not saying there wouldn't be any damage, but I really agree with what Mr. Steve says. That would be very unfortunate if somebody got seriously hurt. And I've heard there's been 2 or 3 anyway, limbs come down already this summer. I think we need to expedite this and maybe bring it to a vote next meeting. Here's the other issue. We require 3 quotes if we're purchasing something. We're not purchasing something, we're selling something. So I don't see how that fits the.
Well, if I can add in, on another topic, when you're talking about the number of quotes. This spring, I reached out to several architects and engineers for a proposal on a set of plans for the North Bathhouse, which I brought them. DK Design was the only company that responded to me, the only architects. And I brought that, and the board requested I get more bids. I can't even get architects and engineers in a 100-mile radius to call me back. So here we are, we're into almost September, and we still have a North Bathhouse that I don't even have a set of plans on where I can get bids, where I can go to the DNR and try to get a grant. Because I can't get a DNR grant without a set of plans and without 3 bids. So yesterday I spent an hour reaching out to more architects and engineers, and none of them answered their phone. So at that point, I'm also asking the board to consider, what do I do now? What's your recommendation? You want 3 bids? I can't get 3 bids.
Well, Mr. Holsworth,
it's frustrating on my end because I can't get people to answer the phone.
and traditionally, I've been here for over 6 years now. And traditionally, we try to get 3 bids.
I understand.
But we don't always get 3 bids. We waive that lots of times in the past. As long as the effort's there, and it's an honest, reasonable result, the board, I would think, wouldn't hesitate to approve what you come up with. But, I didn't know all the story, and I don't know that I know all the story yet about this tree situation, other than it's urgent. Sounds like you've been working really hard for 2.5 months to get around to the situation.
That timber harvester bring a forester in with him to take a look at that and give us some sort of an idea of what kind of.
I'm sorry, Jim, can you start the first of that question over again? I didn't hear what you said.
When that tree harvester came in, did he bring a forester with him so that he could get an idea of how many trees and what kind of quota that we would have coming out of there?
Yes.
Do you remember what the numbers was, Aaron?
How many trees they estimated?
Yes.
400 to 500. In the whole.
That's including, including the forest.
Yeah.
That's including the forest plus the campground.
It was startling to me when I went through with one of the foresters and one of the cutters. We spent 2 hours walking and driving that park. And just listening to them 2 talk, I was shocked at how many trees that they were pointing out that
his quote was that to where there would be no cost at the county, it would be just for what they harvest.
Yeah, there's no cost to the county. They would give a deposit down to start once the contract was signed.
Right.
And then everything would go off wage slips after that. And I'm not saying that that's the direction. I'm just bringing the information to the board so you guys can make that information. I feel as though it was my job to at least do my due diligence to bring it to you, but that's all I can bring to you, is the 1 bid. And like I said, I walked that park and I drove through that park with several people. Several people wouldn't even come out to look at it.
Did they say they'd do that when the park was not open?
They said they would start at the end of September, which I don't know now, to be honest with you, because if we could even get them this year. Because before the last meeting, they told me I have to schedule these hand crews because they're in high demand, and they're one of the only only people in the state that has a hand crew, so they do the whole state in the UP. So, I don't know if it's even an option yet for this year, but I told him I have no idea at this point.
If we can't get them in there for this year, is there a way that we can take care of what we see as dangerous right now?
Well, I know the dead ones out by the South Bathhouse, those are evident. But like I said, I would highly recommend, if any of you know a forester or a cutter, to go through that park, take Brad and go through that, and I'll guarantee you Brad's gonna be shocked. When I was seeing things, they were pointing things out to me that
I know diseases nobody knows.
they do it every day, yeah.
I know diseases nobody knows.
We have a forester that works for Osceola and Mecosta County. Go out there at no cost.
Rick Lucas. Sure. But I'm just telling, the thing is, the only thing I want to comment, when you made the comment about these guys know what they're doing and they can fall in the trees where they want to. Well, the difference, well, first of all, that's not always necessarily true, but the second thing is what you gotta remember, in that park is not a forest. Those trees are massive and they're top heavy, they're huge. There's no way you're gonna follow one of them great big oak trees in the park and not snap trees off and limbs off on other trees.
The only way you're gonna do it is you're gonna be pushing them. You're gonna have to push them in a direction.
Well, they're gonna climb them and take limbs down, lower limbs down to where they're just a tree itself, and then top them off, and then they'll cut about 15 foot of it and push it over. They'll cut that tree down to where it's basically the trunk of the tree up about 15 to 20 foot, everything else will be lowered down with ropes, and then they'll just take their machine and they'll cut that stump and push it over, so they're not hitting them. That's why I'm telling you, there's a lot of work involved in what this company is willing to do and still pay the county, which really surprised me, shocked.
Can you check with that company and see if they're still, that they would be able to have availability to do it after the park closes this year? Before the park closes next year?
Yeah, I can contact them.
Can you bring it back to the next meeting so we know, Aaron, please?
I can.
Well, anybody have a better idea than to go with this company and get it going?
The only other thing I could think of is if you wanted to make a motion to accept this prior offer from our last meeting, which was in the agenda packet from our last meeting, on the conditional that they can get in there and do it this winter while the park is closed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
But I would also like to make sure that the board understands there's gonna be a lot of cleanup. That park is gonna be a mess.
We understand that, we also understand that we've got to take care of a problem.
Right.
For me, it's a safety issue more than it is anything to do with money.
I-
How many close incidents did you have to some boats?
We had a Ranger bass boat that was sitting in the limb that the guy was not happy, but thank God he didn't hurt the boat. Yeah, we've had a lot of close calls. That's why I brought it to the board's attention. You guys need to know what's going on over there.
Well, you know, and kind of relative to that, you're talking the whole park. I was talking about the courthouse and the trees that were removed. The biggest reason we removed trees from the courthouse is because we had limbs falling on cars in the parking lot. I mean, that's why we removed them, and now you have a whole park with 100 campers in it. That's not worth the risk.
All right, any other discussion?
I have a comment.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we all agree trees need to be removed. If you're gonna accept a quote that potentially has 400 to 500 trees being removed, and you don't have any input on what trees are taken down, what are you gonna do if you walk into the park when this place is done, and you don't have a tree standing in the park? There has to be some oversight. Somebody from this board of commission has to work with Aaron and this company to say, yes, we want these trees to go, yes, we want these trees to stay. You can't just.
Well, I think the contract says mature trees be
cut.
The other was supposed to.
According to his contract, when I read through it, they could take every tree down in the park, according to that contract.
There is the statement in there to the operator's discretion, which I'm assuming would be the park manager. But I think it should be a couple people that are overseeing the number of trees.
Whether it's back to health, safety, and grounds.
Something. And whether they walk it, and, because you're right, I mean, we go in there and take 400 or 500 trees out of there, I'll guarantee you, we're all going to hear it next spring. When campers come into that
And
park.
remember, we have to be open by Memorial Day next, so what are you gonna do with all the stumps in the park? Are we gonna buy a stump grinder and grind those ourselves? Are we going to hire somebody? There's a lot to this, I hope. We have to be able to open that park up in the spring.
Well, we know we have to get rid of some trees. And we know this would be more economical than to hire somebody. I understand what you're saying.
I mean,
And I also know those other trees that are immature are gonna grow fast.
well, I had some trees taken down that were dangerous trees, some topped out. And you're looking at, if you hire somebody to come in and just cut a tree that's a dangerous tree, you're looking at anywhere between $1,500 to $3,000 a tree.
Right.
And if they've identified 300-400 trees, but they're also going to be taking out trees that are going to provide them revenue. They're not just going to be select cutting the trees. They're not just going to select cut the dangerous and all the mature pines. They're going to go in there and take out what's going to generate revenue for them, because that's how they can afford to do it for us, pay us. So there may be some nice looking trees in there that they see are going to be good quality logs, that we were going to say, hey, you know, that tree will last another 50 years. And we want to make sure we don't scalp that part. I mean, a lot of people like that part because of the shade, because of the trees. I hate that part because of it, because you can't grow grass. If you can't, there, in a range, you're dealing with mud. Scott knows he's stayed there.
Yes. Well, correct me, Scott.
I can make a recommendation. I mean, if you're talking about at our discretion, then it might be worth the county to pay the forester to go in there, because, I mean, they'll go, a forester will go in there and mark the trees that's gotta come out there and say.
Well, that's what they planned on doing, and we had to come in and mark the trees that needed to go out at that time. And I agree with that, we need to do select cut, we don't need to go in and just stop.
And the county does have Rick Lucas.
He's retired.
He's retired.
Then there's also Ford.
They got the young guy now, Soren, somebody.
Okay, but then you also have Ford that, you know, he'll do it, he's a state forester, and he'll do it, won't charges, but.
Right. So we're talking two different things. If we're going to go and harvest trees, you want to accept K&K. If you want to go in there and select cut, and us mark the trees, you might not necessarily want to go with K&K Forest Products. K&K would have to come back in and look at what trees we want removed to see if it's economical for them to do it and offer this kind of price.
And that's where we need to go.
So, not to get the cart before the horse, we need to figure out which direction we want to go first. And I think
That's why I asked, when K&K was in there, did they bring a forester with them?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
the forester walked that with them, basically said, this tree has to go, this tree has to go, this tree has to go.
What they basically told me, the foresters that I could get there, told me, your best bet in this park is for you guys to ribbon the trees you want before we get here. And we will take everything that is not ribboned off.
Amen. That's what we want.
Because like Mark said, and like Tim just said, otherwise they're gonna go in there and clear cut. But, they said there's some trees you may have marked that are a hazard tree, that we're gonna tell you, well, you wanna keep this tree, but look, it's hollow on the backside, or something like that.
I'm not a forester, I did the best I could to try to get the information. I agree with Tim in a lot of aspects that, wow, this is gonna be a mess. This is gonna be a lot to clean up, we're gonna have a lot of stuff to deal with. But at some point in time, we have to start either taking some of them, whether it's contract, to have hazard trees, $40,000 a year, or whatever it takes to take out so many amount of trees every year, or do we wanna, take a bunch of them out at one time? I don't know how you guys wanna address that, but
The only way you're gonna have a healthy forest up there is it's gonna have to be harvested on a regular schedule. It's the only way you're gonna have a healthy forest up there. If you start going in and picking, well, I'm gonna take this one, but it doesn't leave any shade for the next part, you're not accomplishing anything.
Right.
To my knowledge, the park is, that park up there and that forest up there has never been timbered off that I know of. Usually they recommend every 20 to 25 years.
10 to 15.
I mean, there's some massive oak trees that were pointed out to me that are huge shade trees that are healthy and the forester and the timber buyer are both saying, well, leave this tree, look at the area, look at the amount of shade you got in this one. And you got one right there, and you got one over there. So it's not like it would be, no shade in the park. But there again, I agree 100% with Tim. I don't wanna make that decision. Because I don't wanna come in front of the board next year after it's been logged off and have a bunch of mad commissioners because I scalped the park. So I'm getting the information to you, but
I think it needs to go back, my personal opinion is I think health, safety, and grounds needs to really go up there and look at this. And look at what 300 or 400 trees out of there is gonna do.
Can you set that up to where we have the county forester there at the same time so they know they get an idea of what has to be done there?
Tim could reach out to them, to the forester.
To send a committee up there, you need somebody there that's got the knowledge to be able to say, hey, this is what we have to do to make this healthy.
Right. And to help identify what is dangerous trees.
We can do that.
Just something to consider, if we have to pay $2,000 for select cut to have trees removed, 300 trees is $300,000 to $600,000 cost. That's just something to study.
Right.
But that would do a lot of repairs, a lot of stump removal.
If we identify what trees needs to be taken off, then we can reach back out to foresters, such as KK, and see if there is any value to what we're trying to take out.
My experience with foresters, so our township has 160 acre woodlot, and Ford is the forester for that. He goes and identifies the trees that need to be removed, and then he works through the process, bidding it out to the companies that are eligible, I guess, to do the work. And I just wonder, I know it's a park, so it's a little different than just a standing woodlot, but if the forester would do the same thing as far as putting together a list of the trees that need to come down, and then soliciting bids from the tree harvester to come and do that. So I could check when I call the forester to see.
that's basically what we had up there. Brad Brew was a forester. He came in and identified what he thought should come out. Then he solicited 4 cutters that he works with to come up and go through it with him.
Okay, I have a motion and a support on the floor.
I'll rescind it. We need more information.
Scott, do you rescind your second at this time?
Well, the only thing because the reality of it is, if we kick this can down the road for a month, it isn't getting cut this year. We're gonna endure another summer of somebody possibly getting hurt. That's my biggest fear. It's not about the money, it's about safety. I don't know if I would camp up there right now. It'd be a dang shame, you got a group of kids out there in the tent and one of these limbs comes on. It doesn't fall on a camper, but it kills a kid. That's the biggest thing I'm worried about. And it could cost us If we did 50 trees, it could be $50,000 to $100,000. I mean, it isn't gonna happen this year, and it may not even happen if we were to approve this contract today. So I just want it on the record, that's how I feel. This has nothing to do with money, this is about safety.
Well,
It's been about safety, for 5-6 years.
Right.
We've addressed this thing with the Parks Commission every frickin' year.
We got an opportunity right now with this commission to make it right, to do what we need to do to get it taken care of. And not cost the county money. It's in right in the contract, we can go in there and ribbon 50 trees off. If we think we wanna save them, and they'll tell us, no, that tree, that one you don't wanna save. We have the opportunity to take care of this problem right now, and I really think it needs to be addressed today. Heading it back to South Safety and Grounds, and then we call and do all the work that Aaron's already done, basically going down the same path again to get the same answers, to maybe get one cutter that will maybe take it. Most of them won't even touch it because there's nails and screws and everything else in those trees from all the campers. I'm surprised anybody will touch any of those red pine.
And now that those big old burly oak that are in the park, if they're safe and they're healthy, they're not gonna take them because there's no market value in those big old heavy oaks. The only way there's market value is if they're straight and limbless. That's why they're bidding by the cord, because they're just gonna pay for what they can harvest out of there. They're doing it on a quarter bait. Otherwise, a timber company come in here and say, okay, we're gonna cut 300 trees. We'll write you a check right now for 300 trees. That's why they're doing it by a quarter, because they're skeptical. They don't know what they're gonna get.
Right. Because they don't know what trees we're gonna wanna save.
Exactly.
Mark, I have a question. If you were on a committee, say with Brad and Aaron, and the final say on some of those trees, could that be considered the operator agreement? I can't remember the terminology, but I think it's the operator in the contract. And I agree with Scott. I'm going to make a statement first. I agree with Scott. There's no purpose in sending it back to committee. My mind. And I think we need to do something. But it sounds to me like what Aaron researched and got in the contract is exactly what people are saying, that we want to be. I mean, we're getting the best of both worlds. We're being selective to a certain extent, plus we're getting some revenue to help with the cleanup and everything. So I would, I guess, ask you again, would that be something that might be a good idea, that a committee of 3 go through with the company?
I think the verbiage in there, talking about at the operator's discretion, to me, the operator would be the tree cutters.
That's the way I'm reading this too. It's the tree cutters, not us. It's the tree cutter.
So you're giving them sole discretion as to what they remove or don't remove in that statement.
Well, the thing of it is, if they're doing it by the quarter, then you could have somebody go through there, county or whoever, and any experience I've ever had, you walk through and you mark the trees that you want cut. You paint the trees that you want cut. Any tree that is not painted, they don't touch.
That's usually up to the forester.
And that's what the forester
Well, that's usually up to the forester.
You shouldn't mark the trees you want to keep. The trees that should be cut are the ones that should be marked. That's the way I've always experienced it.
You have the forester mark it and then let us go up there and take a look and say, okay. Until they start cutting, we still own them.
I'd like to make a motion that committee of 3, Mark, Brad, Aaron, have to be in agreement with the operator before trees are removed. But if they amend their contract to indicate that, I would say that we go ahead and accept this bid, quote, whatever you call it, from K&K Forest Products. That would be my motion.
So do I need to rescind my motion to, or my second?
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Custer rescinded his recommendations.
I thought I made the second. I seconded it originally.
Shouldn't it just, Scott did the first motion that Jim did.
On the first one.
Well, I told you I did because I must have said it at the same time Scott did. I didn't hear so.
So at this point in time, the previous recommendation has been accepted. So now Commissioner Mitchell has made a new recommendation.
I'll second that.
So we're gonna form another committee
You're
outside of our health, safety and grounds committee.
You're basically tabling the motion until they bring it back. Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm making a motion that we contract with K&K Forest Products, provided they allow us to be part of the decision-making on those trees that are going to be cut down. With our committee of 3.
Right, discussion.
So there's no decision to be made until we get a decision back from K&K saying that they will agree to the terms. Is that what we're doing?
That is true. We could, it wouldn't be finalized.
We couldn't finalize it until K&K says, yeah, we'll approve.
Oh, my motion is that we finalize it if they would agree to putting that in the contract.
In their previous, if you look at the handwritten note on the previous part of the quote, last paragraph, I think in the camping area, the best thing to do is mark the trees that will stay. We can use ribbon or paint. If paint, maybe a stump mark will work. So they want to tag the trees that they're going to leave.
They want the trees tagged that we want to stay. In the camping area.
In the camping area. Did they go out back in behind like the maintenance building and
Yes.
they're actually going to take trees out of there?
Yes.
So the 300 to 400 trees wouldn't all be in the camping area.
No. There's a lot in that camping area. There's more trees than what you think. There's a lot of trees in that camping area.
Most of the red pine.
Yeah. Mostly, all the red pine has to go. Takes.
Well, it all needs to go because it's mature.
Correct.
Which will actually help the oak, and a lot of other smaller hardwoods that are in there will start growing, and we can actually go in and plant some more, maybe some maple.
Get the red pine out of there, you can grow grass in that part.
Yeah.
That pine trees kill soil, or whatever they say.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to hear the motion right back. I want to hear what the motion is.
Mr. Lyle, would you recite the motion?
It's rough, but here's what I have so far. So recommended by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by Commissioner Steig to approve a committee of 3 people, Mark Gregory, Brad Halliday, Aaron Holsworth, to provide guidance of trees to be removed and to accept a quote from K&K Forest Products as presented.
Yes, that's good. The guidance would, of course, have to be reflected in the new contract.
There is no new contract, we're accepting this one. Technically, the way that motion reads is we're accepting this.
If they agree to the terms, I mean.
Correct. It would, the contract that we would be accepting is the one that was provided in our employee packet.
2 weeks ago.
Right.
With amendments? That's basically what they're asking for.
Right, with our requested amendment.
With requested amendment.
Thank you. Perfect.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
All right, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is the waiver on the cost for the FOIA for Austin Bancroft. Mr. Ladd, you address this, please.
So, I believe you all received an email from Austin Bancroft requesting the board to waive the invoice he received for the FOIA request he most recently submitted. It came to $54.10, I believe. That's that's what the rates were as kept track of the time, the amount of time it took to gather all the information he was requesting in the FOIA. So the bill came to $54.10, and in his email, if you read it, he's asking that the board waive the $54.10. So I'll share with you that the prior half a dozen FOIA requests he's submitted, there's not been a charge on those. Just simply, it was not that much time involved on the prior request he had. This last request that amounted to $54 took a significant amount of time from the building department and from the office here putting everything together.
I make a motion that we deny the waiver.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Ladd, as far as FOIA policy, do we follow our typical FOIA policy in this instance?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right, any other business? Extended public comment.
My name is Debbie Todd, and I have a planning commission question, and I'm not asking on behalf of the planning commission, I'm asking as a planning commission member. The planning commission only meets 4 times a year, from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. The master plan is 100 pages more or less. I think it's an important document. And so I would like to know, because it's not a realistic expectation for 4 hours a year that you're gonna have the planning commission go through the master plan and do the work that they need to do. So what I need to know is, do you guys as commissioners direct how many regular meetings, not subcommittee meetings, but regular meetings the planning commission has, or do we determine that ourselves?
Ask that again, I didn't catch it all.
Okay, so my question is, the planning commission meets 4 times a year from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, okay? And the master plan is a 100+ page document. It's not realistic to think that we're gonna be able to do our job, do our work, and get through that. So I want to know if the county commissioners determine how many meetings we have a year, or if we do that ourselves. And I don't know, we have a meeting this afternoon, and I could ask that question there, but my guess is probably nobody's gonna know, and it would come back to you anyhow, so I'm just trying to save some time to do that myself.
And my answer is I'm gonna have to research that also. Because that's been the way it's been since I've been on the board.
Right, and you
So-
know, I'm a newbie, but there hasn't been a lot done in that plan. I mean, the plan that's on the website is from 2002, even though we know that there's a more current version than that. And again, if you want us to do our job, and we are willing to do the work, but you have to be realistic in the expectation. And so, I know like when we got on the planning commission, the newest ones of us, there wasn't even, anything in the budget for copies, which I don't understand how that works. But you have some people on here now that we ask questions, we wanna do this, right, we wanna do the work, we wanna do the job. But we have to have realistic parameters to work within. And the other question is, I would like to know for the planning commission, who puts the information on the county website for us, because as an example, the days and times of the 4 meetings that are listed are not when we've met this year. So it's inaccurate, and I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how we can fix that, so I know who's in charge of that.
You would just need to notify the administration and they'll update the website to match what your meeting dates and times are.
Okay, so like the chairperson will do that then, correct? Okay, so when you find out about the meetings, could you please, let Mr. Mitchell, Russ, we need to know, because we need to have more meetings, and quite honestly, and this will be a discussion that we have, maybe not today, because we have a pretty robust agenda, but I believe that the planning commission does need to meet more times, and an hour a pop is not realistic to get our work done, because really the planning commission at every meeting they have should be going through a portion of the master plan, so you don't get 10 years down the road instead of 5, and you have this big voluminous job to do that, again, how are you going to get that all done in a reasonable amount of time?
And I don't believe the hours are set. I believe that would be your chair. I mean,
Okay, well, I just needed to know, because again, I would ask that question this afternoon, but because of the questions I asked, generally there aren't answers to questions because nobody knows, so you're the county commissioner, so you guys should know these things and be able to find out the answers to the questions.
I will research that.
Thank you.
I plead ignorance.
Unfortunately, I plead that that's the way it's been done for many years, and I don't know the answer to that. So, all right, any other extended public comment? Or your board comments?
Yes, in regards to their meetings, according to your bylaws, it states in there about your meetings, so it would seem that they would have the ability to amend their bylaws to set your meetings.
Okay, and we do have a bylaws subcommittee that we're going to be going through the bylaws.
So it's in your bylaws. Frequency and types, planning commission will hold a minimum of 4 meetings each year, 1 organizational, minimum of 3 regular meetings, and special meetings as needed.
So that's not.
That's in your bylaws.
Okay, but that's not at the direction of the commissioners.
I don't believe so.
There's an MCL code that says it's state
It'll
law,
be
you have a
researched.
minimum of 4 meetings a year.
So they probably just went with the minimum.
And then it's up to your board itself to come up with more, but the minimum is 4
We can do that.
per this MCL.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Mr. Chairman, I have a quick comment.
Just one hold.
Oh, I'm
Just your
sorry.
hold,
Go
please.
ahead.
So as a representative of the land bank, I just want to let you know, when Aaron said he had a hard time getting bids for engineered drawings, as a land bank, we did as well too, and we only got 1 bid back. And it met the grant requirements because we showed effort of putting that out there and trying to get the bids, but getting engineered drawings is difficult, so I just wanted to put that on the record.
I'd like to add to that, since he did bring that up, I think we should facilitate something on the North Bath House at some point, maybe add it to the next agenda.
Let's run it through house safety grounds.
Okay.
That's where it needs to be started at.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to make a comment that both Ron and Debbie are go-getters. They work really hard, and they really benefit our county to be part of the committee. And I certainly appreciate it, but I want to let the board be aware of how hard they work. They work very hard.
All right, any other extended public comment? Or, excuse me, employee board comments? Motion to adjourn is over.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.
Recording stopped.
I could guess at the commissioners.